What if trust isn't just some vague feeling or a virtue you're supposed to have? What if it's actually a chemical reaction firing away inside your brain? Today, we are going to dive deep into the surprising biology of why we cooperate, how we connect, and what makes us take a chance on each other.
So let me just throw this out there. Could a chemical, a simple nasal spray, actually make you trust a complete stranger with your own money? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but this very question was the basis for a really groundbreaking experiment.
And this experiment is called the trust game. Now, its beauty is that it's super simple, but the results? Well, the results reveal something incredibly profound about human nature and the chemistry that makes us tick.
Okay, so here's how it works. Imagine you're given some money, let's say 10 bucks. You have a choice. You can send any amount of it to a total stranger you will never, ever meet. Now, here's the kicker. Whatever amount you send automatically gets tripled. So if you send all $10, they get 30. Then, that stranger with 30 bucks in hand has to decide how much, if anything, to send back to you. It's a pure, raw test of trust.
So what happened when scientists actually ran this game? The results were absolutely staggering. They had two groups. One group got a placebo, just a simple saline spray. But the other group, they got a spray with oxytocin in it. And that group sent way more money to the stranger. They were just more trusting, more generous, more willing to take that social risk, all because of one little chemical nudge.
And this brings us right to the star of our show, the chemical behind this incredible result. It's been called the love hormone, the trust chemical, even the moral molecule. So let's get to know oxytocin. So what is this stuff exactly? Well, oxytocin is a neuropeptide. That's just a fancy way of saying it's a little protein messenger that works in your brain and your body. It's made deep in the brain in the hypothalamus, and basically its main job is to help us connect with each other. Everything from the bond between a mother and her baby to the trust between teammates. Okay, so how do we get this chemical flowing naturally, without a scientist's nasal spray? It turns out it's released when someone trusts you. It's released through simple physical touch, like a handshake or a hug. Even just making eye contact can do it. And yeah, petting your dog, that gives both of you an oxytocin boost. It's like a biological reward for connecting. But here's the thing, this isn't just a one-off chemical hit. Oxytocin creates this really powerful positive feedback loop. It's what researchers call the virtuous cycle of trust.
It all kicks off with a simple but powerful social signal. When somebody shows that they have faith in you, when they decide to take a risk on you, your brain gets that message loud and clear.
And that message is the trigger. Your brain releases oxytocin. The chemical then floods your system, and it motivates you on a deep biological level to return that trust, to actually behave in a more trustworthy way yourself.
And here it is, the whole loop in action. Someone trusts you, oxytocin gets released, which makes you act more trustworthy. And that trustworthy behavior, well, that makes it more likely that other people will trust you in the future, which starts the whole beautiful cycle all over again. It's our social world and our biology working together in perfect harmony.
So what breaks this amazing cycle? In a word, stress. Think of the stress hormone, cortisol, as oxytocin's kryptonite. When we're afraid, when we feel threatened, when we're chronically stressed out, our brains literally shut down the system for trust and connection.
Now, this is all fascinating when we're talking about individuals, but what happens when you zoom out and scale this up to an entire society? Let's take a look at how the chemistry in our heads can actually affect the health of our economies. The connection here is surprisingly clear. Researchers have found that countries with higher levels of social trust just tend to be more prosperous. And it makes perfect sense, right? Trust is the lubricant for cooperation, and you need massive cooperation to build a thriving, innovative economy.
And get this, here's a really wild discovery from the research. It turns out that watching emotionally gripping stories, narratives about struggle and connection, also causes the brain to release oxytocin. That means a good story can literally change your brain chemistry, making you more empathetic and generous. Stories are chemistry.
Okay, now before we all run out and try to bottle oxytocin to solve all the world's problems, we have to pump the brakes a little bit. We have to acknowledge that the story is a bit more complicated. Like with most things in science, there's always some crucial nuance.
So here's the deal. We need to be really precise about this. First, some of those big, dramatic nasal spray studies have actually been pretty hard for other scientists to replicate consistently. And we now know its effects are way more complex than just calling it a simple trust hormone. In fact, it has a potential dark side.
And this is that dark side, the in-group/out-group effect. For people we see as part of our tribe, our us, oxytocin absolutely cranks up the bonding and cooperation. But for those we see as outsiders, as them, it can actually increase suspicion, defensiveness, and even hostility. It's a bonding agent for sure, but it can also draw the lines of our own tribe much more sharply.
So, keeping all of that complexity in mind, why is this research so vitally important, especially right now in the world we're all living in?
We're living through a time of declining social trust in our institutions, in the media, and maybe worst of all, in each other. And this science is such a critical reminder that trust isn't just some nice, soft idea. It is a biological necessity hardwired into the very core of who we are.
The lead researcher on so many of these studies, a guy named Paul Zak, he put it perfectly. He said, "We are made to care for each other. The question is whether our social conditions support that or inhibit it. Our biology is primed and ready for connection. The environment we create is what determines if it can actually flourish."
So, despite all the complexities, the core message here is actually incredibly clear, and it's hopeful. Our brains evolved for cooperation and generosity because, for thousands and thousands of years, that is what kept our species alive. We are not meant to be isolated.
And that leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. If our biology is wired for connection, what kind of world are we going to build for it?